Delivery modalities refers to a learning delivery modality where learners take place between the teacher and the learners who are geographically remote from each other during instructions. The following are the modalities in teaching students. Face-to-face is an instructional method where course, contents, and learning materials are taught in person to a group of students, and this allows for a live interaction between a learner and instructor. It is the most traditional type of learning instruction, and there is opportunity for active engagement, immediate feedback, and socio-emotional development of the learners. This is our traditional way of learning. We are personally go to school, we personally met our teachers, we can interact with our friends, classmates, and schoolmates, and learning are so present inside the four corners of the classroom. Second, blended learning is an approach to learning that combines face-to-face and online learning experiences. Students learn via electronic and online media as well as the traditional face-to-face teaching. The following are some examples of blended learning. Station rotation blended learning is a model that allows students to rotate through stations on a fixed schedule where at least one of the stations is an online learning station. In this learning, there is a various ways that the learners must need to do in order to maintain his/her learning. Remote, blended learning, or enriched virtual. In this model, the students' focus is on completing online coursework while only meeting with the teacher intermittently or as needed. This approach differs from the flipped classroom. In these modalities, remote blended learning or enriched virtual, there is a less interaction between teachers and learners. They meet personally if it is appointed by the learner at these modalities are just in his/her online coursework. The flipped classroom blended learning is one where students are introduced to content at home and practice working through at it in school, supported by a teacher and or peers. In this way, traditional roles for each space are flipped. In other words, studying at school and learning at home. Mastery-based blended learning. Students rotate between online and face-to-face learning based on the completion of mastery-based learning objectives. Assessment design is crucial in any mastery-based learning experiences. Mastery-based blended learning, a mode of learning in which learners has rotation schedule of which online and face-to-face learning base. The third delivery modality is technology-based online e-learning. Constitute learning via electronic technology including the internet, intranets, satellite, broadcast, audio and video conferencing, bulletin boards, chat rooms, webcasts, and CD-ROM. This fosters greater accessibility to learning by offering anytime and anywhere delivery of information. Online learning, on the other hand, refers to the idea of using online tools or learning. An online course implies a distance between the student and the teachers. Lectures, assignments, tests are enabled by virtual platforms, while e-learning typically refers to the online interaction between the student and the teacher. Students receive the training through an online medium, even though the teacher may be in the same building. Technology-based online e-learning. In these modalities, electronics materials such as gadgets, TV, laptops are usually used as a material in learning and the delivery of modules or online materials. The fourth delivery modality is distance learning. is synonymous with online learning. It is a method of study where teachers and students do not meet in a classroom, but learning materials are sent through the internet, emails, mails, etc. to have classes. At these modalities of learning, there is no interaction of teachers and learners, but learning materials are available in the internet and social media sites or platforms.
Hi everyone, my name is Reza Haim, and now I'm going to discuss the structure for facilitating learner-centered teaching. Structures for facilitating learner-centered teaching is a potent tool to help pre-service and practicing teachers understanding the fundamental pedagogical principles, process, and practices that are anchored or learner-centeredness and other educational psychologies, as they apply to facilitate the delivery of teaching and learning in the current educational millennium. So, a structure for facilitating learner-centered teaching is a potent tool that helps pre-service and to practice teachers and to understand the fundamental pedagogical principles. Number 1 is formal. Is concerned with teacher being the control of learning environment. Power and responsibility are held by the teachers and they play the role of instructor. When we say formal, concern teacher being controller and at the same time decision maker. Number 2, alternative learning system or ALS is a practical option of the existing format instruction so that students can complete basic education in a mode that fits their distinct situation and needs. This ALS or alternative learning system, a kind of program that can help students complete the basic education and also can take place anytime at any place, depending on the convenience and availability of the learners. Non-formal education or NFE refers to education that occurs outside the formal school system. It is often used interchangeable with terms such as community education. The non-formal education, it is a kind of education that young people and adults ensures to acquire and maintain the skills and abilities. Letter B, informal education or INFED. Informal education or INFED does not have the structure and levels that formal schools have. So, informal education from the word informal, meaning the information that someone learned through this form comes from learning experience. For example, formal education can teach you about fire and physics, and in more advanced classes. And the last one is the mobile teachers. The mobile teachers are specialized teachers who live among the people in remote barangays of the country. So the mobile teachers can also conduct the BLP for illiterate out-of-school youth and willing to learn the basic literacy skills. Number 3, alternative delivery modes or ADM refers to the non-traditional education program recognized by the DepEd or Department of Education, which applies a flexible learning philosophy and a curricular delivery program that includes non-formal and informal sources of knowledge and skills. So when we say alternative delivery modes, refers to the non-traditional education program, tried and tested alternative modalities of education delivery, and it can allow schools to deliver quality education for students thus at risk of dropping out. Letter A is modified in-school or off-school approach. It is an alternative delivery mode of education meant to address the problem of congestion. When we say in-school group will exchange with the experience of the learning facilitator. And when we say the off-school naman, group is given the flexibility to learn and do activities independently or with learning facilitator. Letter B is enhanced instructional management by parents, community, and teachers. It is a learning system in the Philippines that was designed in 2010 by the Southeast Asian Ministry of Education Organization. And the last one is letter C, the Open High School Program or OHSP. It is an alternative mode of formal secondary education program run by the Bureau of Secondary Education of the Department of Education.
Good day everyone, I'm Ayan Patricia V. Solano from PED5 IAD1. So for today, I will discuss the method and strategies. Every person may iba-ibang diskarte o pamamaraan ang pagtuturo ng mga guro sa mga estudyante. Ang strategy on how you select things and goals for your students, while the methods is how you applicate things and achieve them. So in method, we have here the active learning activities. These are the students who are actively learning after activities, participate or interact with the learning process. For example of active learning activities are making some group projects, role playing, debates, and etc. And also being active can help you to build more confidence and develop your learning skills. So in cooperative learning activities, sometimes called small group learning, is a teaching approach in which the small groups of students work together on a common task. The task could be as simple as solving a multi-step math problem together, or as complex as developing a design for a new type of school. This one is the inquiry and inductive learning activities. Inductive learning is a powerful strategy for helping students deepen their understanding of content and develop their inference and evidence skills. In an inductive learning lesson, students analyze, group, and label specific pieces of information to find patterns. The second one is the learner-centered instructional strategies. So the first one, the cooperative learning. Cooperative learning is the process of separating a classroom of students into small groups so that they can discover a new concept together and help each other learn. The idea of cooperative learning has been around for decades, but it has not gained the same popularity as mixed learning or instructional diversity. So the second one is the presentation. These are the techniques are to help students become independent, strategic learners. These strategies become learning strategies when students independently select the appropriate ones and use them effectively to accomplish tasks or meet goals. One is the panels. So as a panel, it's like a leader or a presenter to discuss, and the member act as the audience. So the fourth one is the KWL or KWHLAQ, known what, learn, know what, learn, action, and questions. So, ito ay isang diskarte sa pagtuturo sa pagbasag na ginagamit para gabayan ang mga mag-aaral sa pamamagitan ng isang teksto, the KWHLAQ. So, the fifth one is the brainstorming. Brainstorming is a teaching technique or tool used by the teacher in which maximum or all the students participate by responding to or expressing views on a topic. This approach encourages new ideas to students that will not happen under normal circumstances. So the sixth one, the learner created media. Learning media is used as a means of supporting the learning process for learning objectives can be achieved. Learning media is defined as a tool in the form of physical and non-physical used by the teachers in conveying material to students to be more effective and efficient. 7. The discussion. So this is a popular learning strategy that's broken up into three parts. These are the strategy, think about the discussion questions. The students are divided into pairs or small groups. So these are the students, they share their ideas with their partner or group. So the following are the advantage and disadvantage of the discussion. The first one is advantage of discussion. In a discussion, the students are actively involved in processing information and ideas. Second, since student-initiated questions are more common in discussion classes, their needs and interests are dealt with more readily, spontaneously than in other methods. Third, because students play a more active role in discussion, students' diversity of background can be exploited in the generator of ideas, approaches, and examples. So the fourth one, students receive practice in formulating questions and communicating their ideas. So the last one of advantage is the discussion can be used to examine student attitudes. So for the disadvantage, the first one is the discussion method is the least effective method for conveying factual information. So the second one is discussion can be very time consuming and unfocused unless the instructor makes an effort to direct the flow. Third, because an instructor is often had difficulty in getting the students involved at first, the temptation to slip into a review session or mini lecture is great. And the last one of disadvantage is the class size must be restricted. So the eighth one is the small group. Small group instruction allows teachers to work more closely with each student. This type of instruction provides the opportunity to evaluate students' learning strength, locate gaps in the development of their learning, of their reading or math skills, and factor lesson focus on specific learning objectives. 9. Case studies. Case studies is an instructional method, not theory, that refers to assigned scenarios based on situation in which students observe, analyze, record, implement, conclude, summarize, or recommend. So, case studies are created and used as a tool for analysis and discussion. And the last one is the jigsaw. So, jigsaw is a cooperative learning strategy that enables each student of a home group to specialize in one aspect of a topic. For example, one group students studies predators of rainforest animals. Other group studies habitats of rainforest animals. That's all.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Sophia Alvarez, and this is the continuation of method and strategy. So, for number 11, learning centers, It indicates that students learn best through group activities because in that way, they were going to interact and collaborate with other students, wherein they will show their understanding and will also enhance their skills through the given different tasks on various group activities. But before that, teachers must prepare and determine first a topic content and materials that is really related to the objective before given a different task, a different group activities. Number 12, experiments. It is a procedure that supports, reflect, validate the planned teaching strategy by the teacher to the students. And it shows the cause and effect of the experiments, but it always varies on goal and scale of repeatable procedures. Number 14, simulations. It is an instructional scenario wherein learners is placed in a world that is being called or named by the teachers, and they were the one who controls the parameter. And it used to get the desired instructional results by the students based on their experience and the reality of the scenario to gather meaning from it. And simulation also involve different elements like a game, a role play, or an activity that acts as a metaphor. And simulation also promotes the critical and evaluative thinking of the students, and it also helps to promote the students to practice, to appreciate more deeply on the management of environment, politics, and community, and different cultures. For number 16, laboratory strategies. It is also a good way for teaching method for the students wherein teachers will allow them to get engaged or involved more on science activities that will also enhance their skills on using a scientific apparatus. And laboratory These are the 7 benefits of inquiry-based learning. 1. Reinforce curriculum content. 2. Warms up the brain for learning. 3. Promotes a deeper understanding of content. 4. Helps make learning rewarding. 5. Builds initiative and self-direction. 6. Works in almost any classroom. Then 7 is offers differentiated instruction. For number 19, mental models are any organized pattern. It includes often a visual representation consisting of both structure and process, a flow of chart of sorts that helps a student comprehend content knowledge and or solve problems relative to the principle being taught. Advanced organizers are often thought of as mental models. Mental models help you understand life. Example, supply and demand is a mental model that helps you understand how the economy works. Next is for number 20, project-based learning. It is a teaching method in which the students gain knowledge and skills by working for an extended period of time to investigate and respond to an authentic, engaging, and complex question, problem, or challenge. A dynamic classroom approach in which students actively explore real-world problems and challenges and acquire a deeper knowledge. Then for number 21, problem-based learning is a teaching method in which complex real-world problems are used as the vehicle to promote students' learning concepts and principles as opposed to direct presentation of facts and concepts. It can promote the development of critical thinking skills, problem-solving abilities, and communication skills. It can also provide opportunities for working in groups, finding and evaluating research materials, and lifelong learning, such as Dutch et al. 2001. Then for number 22, the discovery learning. It was introduced by Jerome Bruner and is a method of inquiry-based instruction. This popular theory encourages learners to build on past experiences and knowledge, use their intuition, imagination, and creativity, and search for new information to discover facts, correlation, and new truths. It is used in the classroom during problem-solving exercise and educational programs. So these are the advantages of discovery learning. 1. It encourages motivation, active involvement, and creativity. 2. It can be adjusted to the learner's pace. 3. It promotes autonomy and independence. Then 4. It ensures higher levels of intention. For number 23, social media are tools that allow for social interaction and easy creation of content by users. It can be an effective tool for teaching and learning in higher education. It can help connect students to information and help them generate a dialogue with their teacher and other students about the course. It can also help students and faculty build professional networks that connect them to communities beyond. So in our generation, it is very popular, the social media, that helps also our daily life activity, especially for students and teachers.
Good morning, my name is Transmiti Eric from BTLED IA-D1. So for today, I'm going to discuss about the flexible learning and teaching. Flexible learning is a method of learning where students are given freedom in how, what, when, and where they learn. Flexible learning environment addresses how physical space is used, how students are grouped during learning, and how time is used throughout teaching. Example of flexible learning are face-to-face, website with interactive content, or chat rooms, discussions boards, teleconferencing or video conferencing, print resources, field trips, and audio tapes. Flexible teaching accommodates curiosity, allows lessons to have a much looser structure, lets discussions, thoughts play out, and follow them to see where they go. In traditional course, some activities are synchronous, like listening to lecturers or participating in discussions, labs, and small group work. Other activities might be asynchronous, like readings and homework assignment.
So basically, what is differentiated learning? Differentiated learning, or in education, simply differentiation, is a framework or philosophy for effective teaching that involves providing all students within their diverse classroom community of learners a range of different avenues for understanding new information, often in the same classroom, in terms of acquiring content, processing, constructing or making sense of ideas, and developing teaching materials and assessment measures so that all students within a classroom can learn effectively regardless of differences in their ability. Differentiating instruction may mean teaching the same material to all students using a variety of instructional strategies. It may require the teacher to deliver lessons at varying levels of difficulty based on the ability of each student. According to Tomlinson, teacher can differentiate instruction through 4 ways. So number 1 is content. What the student needs to learn, or how the student will get access to the information. Examples of differentiating content at the elementary level include the following. Number 1. Using reading materials at varying readability levels. Putting text materials on tape. Using spelling or vocabulary lists at readiness levels of students. Presenting ideas through both literary and visual means. Process. Activities in which the student engages in order to make sense of and master the content. Examples of differentiating process or activities at the elementary level include the following. Using timed activities through which all learners work with the same important understandings and skills, but proceed with the different levels of support, challenge, or complexity. Providing interest centers that encourages students to explore subsets of the class topic of particular interest to them. Products. Culminating projects that ask the student to rehearse, apply, and extend what he or she has learned in a unit. Example of differentiating products at the elementary level include the following. Giving students options of how to express acquired learning. Example. Create a puppet show, write a letter, or develop a mural with labels. Using rubrics that match and extend students' varied skill level. Allowing students to work alone or in small groups on their product, and encouraging students to create their own product assignments as long as the assignments contain required elements. So the last is learning environment, the way the classroom works and feels. Examples of differentiating learning environment at the elementary level include making sure there are places in the room to work quietly and without distraction, as well as places that invite student collaboration. Providing materials that reflect a variety of cultures and home settings. Setting out clear guidelines for independent work that matches individual needs.
Good day, everyone. My name is Chris Beniharda from Peer Teacher Discussion Team 5, a member. I will discuss the education in emergencies. Emergency education is a vital, life-saving solution that works to protect children in conflict and natural disasters while also preserving their rights to education. Emergencies responds to the needs of children, parents, communities, and educational officials. We work with school and families to improve community-based security systems programs through preparedness and preparation, conflict education, prevention, and peace building, and the lead up to the disaster during an emergency. We work to ensure access to inclusive, qualities, learning, and emotional support for the primary and secondary school students. Help build the capacity of learners and caregivers to support children's continuous learning. So here the bigger sample of education in emergencies.
During an emergency, the first priority is to prevent deaths, and education plays a critical part. Day in, day out, education works towards supporting the development of individuals, families, communities, and nations. But when crisis strikes, in an emergency situation, education has several additional critical roles. Firstly, it is life-saving. It provides children with a lifeline, protecting them from turmoil. Secondly, centers of learning become hubs for other kinds of well-being services, such as child welfare, health, nutrition, hygiene, and sanitation. What follows with such services are life-saving messages that are transferred from learners to their families. And there is more. One of the most important aspects of education in emergencies is the psychosocial benefit of creating a sense of normalcy for children. When life outside is dangerous and disturbing, centers of learning offer essential balance and routine for children. For children who had been at school before a crisis struck, education also addresses the urgent need to ensure that learning is not disrupted. Unbroken education is critical to survival, resilience, peace, development. Few other interventions offer so much. In short, education is a key to breaking the cycle of humanitarian crises. Anywhere, every time.
Next is foundational standards. These domain detailed standards for community participation and resources, coordination, analysis, assessment, response strategies, monitoring, evaluation. Thus, these standards describe the critical for effective education response. They are the basis for the application of the standards for assess the learning environment, teaching and learning, teachers and other education personnel and educational policy. So here the diagram of foundational standards domain. So in the community participation, there are two standards, which are the participation and resources. In participation, community members participate actively, transparently, and without discrimination in analysis, planning, design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of educational responses. Participation, a range of community members participate actively in prioritizing and planning education activities to ensure safe, effective, and equitable delivery of education. Any members of affected community should be able to participate regardless of their age, gender, religion, sexual orientation, disability, or other factors. Community resources are identified, mobilized, and used to implement age-appropriate learning communities. So, in resources, communities, education personnel, and learners identify and mobilize local resources through strengthening access to quality education. Community resources include human, intellectual, linguistic, monetary, and materials resources existing in the community. They are improve the safety, access, and quality of the teaching and learning. Teacher motivates may be improved through resources mobilized for salaries and other forms of compensation. Next is the coordination. Coordination mechanisms for education are in place and support stakeholders working to ensure access to and continuity of quality education. Education authority, which are the responsible for fulfilling the right to education, assume leadership rules of education response, including the convenience and participating in coordination mechanism with other educational stakeholders. Next is the analysis. So in analysis, there are 4 standards belong to the analysis. So the first one is assessment. Timely education assessments of the emergency situation are conducted in a holistic, transparent, and participatory manners. So an initial rapid education assessment is undertaken as soon as possible, taking into account the security and safety. Next is the response strategies. Inclusive education response strategies include a clear description of the context, barriers to the right to education, and strategies to overcome those barriers. So, response strategy reflect assessment finding. So, education responses progressively meet the needs of affected population from inclusive and quality of education. Education stakeholder must invest in a thorough analysis and interpretation of assessment data. The response strategies should demonstrate the leading role of the education authorities and collaboration with other stakeholders. The budget should provide the initial education activities, including the baseline data collection and evaluation. Next is Standard 3 monitoring. Regular monitoring of education response activities and the involvement learning needs of the affected population is carried out. So, education response activity are monitored to ensure the safety and security of all the learners, teachers, and other education personnel. The planned and unplanned impacts of education programs should be monitored to ensure that they do not unintentionally increase the marginalization, discrimination, conflict, or natural hazards. Many types of information can be collected from schools and other education programs on a sample basis, giving quick indication of needs and problems. It is important to listen directly to the voice of women and vulnerable groups. Ongoing education response activity should be modified if necessary according to the result of monitoring. Next is standard is evaluation. Systematic and partial evaluation improve education response activities and enhance accountabilities. Regular evaluation of education response activities produce credible and transparent data and inform future education activities. Impact is the measurable change the programs has caused in people's lives. Qualitative data are about things that can be counted. Qualitative data help to understand the processes and explain the results. So additionally, the distinction between the monitoring and the evaluation. So the monitoring is the ongoing process that regularly measuring process toward goals and objectives It allows education to program staff to make changes during the programs of the project cycle, while the evaluation is the measuring outcome and evaluate whether expected result has been achieved. Next is the teaching learning domain. This standard focus of critical elements that promote effective teaching and learning, including curricular, training, professionals, development and support, instruction and learning processes, and assessment of learning outcomes. So there are 4 standards in teaching learning domain. So the first one standard is curricular. Culturally, socially, and linguistically relevant curricula are used to provide formal and non-formal education appropriate to the particular context and needs of learning. Education's authority leads the review of developments or adaptations of the formal curricula involving all relevant stakeholders. Formal curricula are examination used in the educational of refugees and intentionally replace people are recognized by the home and nest of government. Next is training, professional development and support. So teachers refers to instructor, facilitator in the formal and non-formal education programs. Teachers may have a different experience and training. So training opportunities are available to male and female teachers and other educational personnel according to needs. Teachers should train on how to identify needs for the specific teaching aids based on the curriculum. They should learn how to create effective and appropriate teaching aids using learnable materials. Teaching needs skills and knowledge to help learning and the community, to parents and delegate future disaster and need a support. Development of formal training curriculum and content is the responsibility of education's authority. Curricula should be reflect on the needs and rights of learning in the particular needs of the educational personnel. Training initiatives should include how to address issues of diversity and discrimination. For example, the gender-sensitive teaching strategies encourage teachers of both sexes. Next is instructions and learning processes. Instructions and learning processes are learning-centered, participatory, and inclusive. Teachers demonstrate an understanding of lessons, content, and teaching skills in their interaction with learners. Teaching should be interactive and participatory, ensuring all the learners are involved in the lesson. Existing curricula may need to be adapted to accommodate active learning. Guidance play may build a skills and relationship with both peers and teachers. Teaching method may be changed to be adaptable and acceptable to the context. However, more participatory or learning-friendly teaching methods should be introduced with care. It may take time for the school and the community to understand and accept these changes. Parents and community leaders understand and accept the learning content and teaching methods used. And lastly of the standard is assessment of learning's outcome. Appropriate methods are used to evaluate and validate learning outcomes. Continuous of assessment and evaluation of learning processes toward established object in for a teaching method for like a relevance, consistencies, and transparencies like that. So that's all for today. Thank you.